One, two, three, four.
I love all my friends. I love all my friends. I'm parking the car, turning off the lights.
Hello, you're listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. We are a general interest independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. This year, because of the coronavirus pandemic, we've had to close our store and cancel in-person events. But Skylight is your neighborhood bookstore, and we are finding ways to create community even while we're far apart. In the coming weeks, we'll be putting out lots of new audio content to help you discover new books, connect with authors, and check in with your favorite booksellers. To learn more about how you can help keep Skylight alive, please visit our website at skylightbooks.com or check out our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram. You can subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Thank you for listening and enjoy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Handsell series of the Skylight Books podcast. I'm the podcast producer and host, Mick Kowaleski, alongside my co-host,
Maddie Gobbo, events manager.
Maddie. I feel like every single time we record an episode, I have to start off by saying, what a week. And frankly, I'm getting sick of it.
Yeah, let's have a week where no one does anything.
Yeah,
everyone
just
stays
like,
perfectly still.
please, just everyone just hold tight and relax for just a week so that we can get a break.
We personally need a break. Everyone else should relax for our benefit. Me and Mick are the
Everyone's
most important
benefit.
people.
Honestly, like, yes, mostly us, but also everyone else. But that's not how 2020 works,
No.
Unfortunately. I mean, let's get it out of the way right now. We've been watching, along with the rest of the world, what's happening in Minneapolis. And we just want to say that we are very much in favor of all the protests, everything that's going on down there to contradict the police brutality that happened. Can we say that? Is that fair to say on behalf of the bookstore?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yes, Skylight does have kind of a bit of a leftist bent, and we do offer a lot of radical reading material, and we feel that what's happening in Minneapolis and in Louisville and in lots of other cities, San Jose right now I think has a big protest on the 101.
Mm-hmm.
It's long overdue. I mean, I think people have been trying to be heard for a long, long time. And, you know, when the structures of power don't listen, you get louder and you start to break stuff. And that's normal. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks. I am encouraged by how quickly that cop was arrested. It's so rare to see a cop arrested for any reason.
Right. The fact that it is so rare, I think, speaks to, it sucks that feels shocking in a weird way, like a pleasant surprise. Like, oh, someone who killed another person was brought into custody. I'm waiting for the three bystanding cops to also be taken into custody, but that's just me personally. I think that's not only do we have to take the, actual killers to task, but we also have to take the bystanders to task.
Yeah, I think silence plays a big part in this conversation that we're having as a country right now, that there are a lot of people who have felt for a long time very comfortable standing by the sidelines, showing support in ways that don't risk anything.
Right.
And that's just not acceptable anymore. I'm going to have a bit of an aside. I was just having a conversation with Andres Newman, the author for a Skylit episode, and he talked about how we now live in a time where our lives are being shaped by borderless forces, climate change, capitalism, fascism, things where we expect that they'll only touch one part of our world, but really they don't move that way. They're moving in these unrestricted ways, and the only way we can fight back against them is if everybody gets on board and comes together. And it's really time to get off the sidelines now. So, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and everybody has to be on board for it, or we're going to all suffer.
Yeah, 100%. You could add COVID to that list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Borderless forces. Yeah, I think I'm a little personally afraid of everyone seeing this one person get arrested and saying, all right, that's it, we did it, because it's not over yet. And I'm a little heartened to see that it actually happened, but at the same time, I think it's good to keep a little skepticism. I think the world has taught us as much. Yeah. While we're on the subject, I wanted to urge everyone who's listening to go and donate to the the Minnesota Freedom Fund, I believe, which is a fund designed to bail out any protester that was arrested over the past week. I donated. I know a lot of other Skylighters donated. And then Maddie, you wanted to point something out really cool, another little institution in Minneapolis that's doing good stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Moon Palace Books, which is just a fantastic independent bookstore located right next to the 3rd precinct that burned down last night. And they have been doing some incredible work to support their community. I hope you guys check them out, buy some gift cards, give them some of your money somehow, because, institutions like that that are not only engaged in their neighborhood change, but are, really putting themselves on the line for their communities, like, they're valuable. We have to keep them around. So check out Moon Palace Books at moonpalacebooks.com. The Minnesota Freedom Fund is at minnesotafreedomfund.org. So we hope you find those and show your support that way. Thank you.
But I wanted to talk about Moon Palace a little bit more, just because there were some other pretty cool things. One, you mentioned that they were right next door to the police precinct. I wanted to point out that it was untouched, but also they had I think you mentioned before we started recording that they had a medical tent set up.
Yeah, and they were
outside.
distributing supplies to the protesters who had been pepper sprayed, I think. Again, I'm getting all this from social media, so I have not journalistically vetted this information. But Moon Palace, it looks like, has been out there among their community, helping them directly in their time of need. And what else are indie bookstores for?
Exactly. Yeah. Lovely. Anyway. All right. Well,
I wanted to also talk about, just very quickly, we've put together a reading list for you all on unlearning racism. So just, if you're interested in really tackling some of the internal stuff you've got going on, I know I do. And I need to read a lot of the books on this list. We are putting that up on our homepage, but you can find it at skylightbooks.com/unlearning-racism-recommended-reading. We'll put the link in the episode description.
Awesome. And is that can you find that on our homepage too? Are we pushing that on the homepage, or?
Yes, I will put up a banner after we get off of this call, so you can find it very easily.
Well, I'll cut that out so that it'll be on the banner by the time this episode drops. So just check it out on the homepage. What sort of titles do we have up there right now? Just to shout them out.
Yeah, so we've been soliciting recommendations from the whole Skylight staff. What we've got here so far, we've got Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis. Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. How We Get Free by Kinaga Yamada Taylor. Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall, The History of White People by Nell Irvin Painter, White Rage by Carol Anderson, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde, This Bridge Called My Back by Sherry Moraga, All About Love by Bell Hooks. I mean, it goes on. I'm not going to read all of them, but there are so many good picks on here. We really hope you can check it out.
Absolutely. And a personal recommendation, I have, I think, gone through a self-interrogation throughout the past, whenever I moved out of the small town that I grew up in. One book that was really instrumental for me that I'd like to personally shout out is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It was really instrumental in helping me, I think, come to terms with the illusion of whiteness and what that means on a day-to-day basis for, people of color, and how my interactions with them really affect the world. So I want to really shout that book out. And then I guess it's a good segue into, we'll shake it up. We'll shake the structure of the intro up a little bit, because we usually save the what you're reading segment or the book recommendation segment for last, but do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, well, this is like a hard left turn into fun, not nonsense, but just pure pleasure reading, which I think I've already mentioned on the podcast, but I'm going to plug it again because I think it's so good. Vagabond by Anna Dorn. It's her debut novel. It's set here in LA. It's about a very disaffected young lawyer who gets swept up in the LA rap scene, and kind of has like a moment of viral fame, and it completely destroys her life in very funny and dark and poisonous ways. I just thought it was so funny and wonderful and freaky, and you can tell that Anna is a huge fan of Real Housewives and Vanderpump Rules, which as I've mentioned are my primary interests right now. But yeah, apart from the reality TV show stuff, I think the writing's fantastic, and I think it really captures the kind of pre-COVID just party vibes of LA in late 2019. It's got all of that like influencer glitz and scum in equal measures. It's just great. So you can get that from us at skylightbooks.com. It's again Vagabond. That is the name of our protagonist's rap alter ego.
Right, and this is blonde with an E at the end.
Blonde with an E, yes. That's
there
right.
We go. Vagabond.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, it's a good episode, by the way.
Right. Mick, what about you?
Well, I'm still working through the Virgin Suicides. Still enjoying it. It's, I think, a little bit more than I expected to. I don't know why. I think I have a healthy skepticism of like most, novels written by white guys. I always approach them with I need a couple good recommendations before I accept it and go into it with an open mind. But yeah, I'm we talked about the simp narrators last week. Real learning experience for me, and they just keep getting simpier and simpier, and it makes it it's dark, but it's also kind of funny in a weird way, like the way the narrators talk. But I can't wait to, and I'm very excited to watch the movie afterwards.
Kristen Dunst, excellent performance.
Who does she play?
She plays the hottest of the sisters, whose name I'm forgetting right now.
Lux? Is it Lux?
Yeah, Lux.
Ah, perfect. All right. I'm pretty excited for that. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading. And so we've got a pretty good episode. Today we've got Mary, right after we're done here with the intro, giving us an update on the curbside pickup process. A couple little friendly reminders. I'm sure you guys are sick and tired of it at this point, because it'll be 3 straight weeks of curbside pickups, but just in case you need a little refresher, we've got the head honcho herself in to break it down. And then Maddie, you're coming back with an old friend.
Yeah. So our conversation this episode is with David Gonzalez, the very wonderful David Gonzalez, who
David.
I miss a lot. He was my predecessor as the events manager. He stepped down in November of 2019 to be a full-time dad to his fantastic and funny and wild daughter. And he's also working on a really cool new publishing project, which he's going to tell you about. It's called Breaking and Entering. And it's a chapbook, short story, experimental cross-genre, writing by people of color series that I think is going to be fantastic. The first issue's already out, and I think the second one is now in the works. So you can learn more about that in our chat. And yeah, you guys should just like hang out with David sometime if you get a chance. He's really fun. He's
so great.
He's read a ton and loves to gossip. So,
and I might add, is a great follow on Letterboxd, the film logging site. DD David Gonzalez. Really good Letterboxd follow. All right, well, we'll get to Mary soon, and Maddie, we'll talk to you later.
All right.
All right, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Nice.
Hello, this is Mary, the General Manager of Skylight Books, back with another store update. A week and a half ago, we took over order fulfillment for our website orders again after 2 months of sending all our orders to our distribution partner to fill on our behalf. And we've begun offering phone orders and curbside pickup for limited hours too. It's great being back in the store and selling books again. As we've reoriented to this new way of being a bookstore, we've gotten lots of questions about how orders work now, when they'll be ready for pickup, and how curbside pickup works. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to quickly run through the process. Right now, it's taking about 48 hours, give or take, for us to get to your order after you place it. Once we reach your order, if all the books are in stock, we process the order and email you to let you know that it's ready for pickup, or we pack it up to be shipped, and you'll get an email with your tracking number. If the books are not all in stock, we'll order the books we don't have for you and email you with an estimated time frame for when your books will arrive. Basically, you should be getting an email from us for one reason or another about 2 days after placing your order. Also, a quick note about books that our website says are in stock. If our website thinks a book is in stock, it will say on our shelves now and list the quantity we have. The caveat is that the quantity our website thinks we have of a given title doesn't take into account the prior 2 days of orders that have been placed but not yet processed, so those copies may have already been purchased. The on our shelves now numbers can give you an idea of what we have in stock, but are not fully accurate. If you choose curbside pickup for your order, please wait to be notified before coming to the store. If your order isn't ready by the time you come by, we won't be able to process it for you on the spot, since we're processing these in the order they're received. But once you've been notified, come by the store between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and call us when you're out front. We'll bring your order out and set it on the pickup table. Once our bookseller has stepped back, you can come forward to get your book. Masks are required for curbside pickup by the County of Los Angeles. We're so glad to be handling our own orders again, and we thank you very much for your orders and your patience as we gear up with this new system.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Handsell. I am your host and events manager, Maddie Gobbo. Joining me today is the previous events manager from Skylight Books, the man who trained me, the wonderful David Gonzalez. David, hello.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Maddie. How's it going?
Oh, you know, we're hanging in there. We're doing the thing.
Nice to see your face.
Yeah, nice to see your bandana face. Your hair's getting really long.
Oh, it's getting weird over here, let me tell you.
Yeah, so you've been home taking care of your daughter for the last couple months. Yeah. So like you mentioned, I was the previous events manager at Skylight, and we have a 3-year-old, and we don't have any family here in LA. And while we have 2 very lovely sort of nanny /
babysitters who we really love. Uh, we can't afford to have them full time, so it was a matter of time before I went into full stay at home dad.
Dad
And it
mode.
was full dad mode. So stepped down from my position in November 2019, and I've been stay at home dad since, and it was sort of moving along swimmingly until the coronavirus, and then things just went way off the rails. And that's where we are. So thankfully, my lovely wife is able to work from home. So that's good. And it's basically my job just to keep the kiddo out of her hair while she produces television. Yeah.
And that's like no small task, because your daughter she's a busy bee.
She will soon be turning 4, and all her previous, the nannies, daycare teachers, everybody, it's just like she's very independent. And it's wonderful to hear as a parent. But when you're responsible around the clock, you're like, oh, this independence is bullshit. Like, I need you to take some orders and take them now. But no, it's we recently got a kiddie pool. Pro tip, parents, kiddie pool. Buy yourself a kiddie pool. Especially here in LA, as the weather is changing, the kiddie pool has really been a lifesaver.
Yeah, I want a kiddie pool for myself.
Oh yeah,
I don't have any children, but I want one.
Homeschooling went out the window about 3 weeks in. We were hanging tough. We were trying to do lessons and plans and stuff, and then just no. We're gonna kiddie pool and build Legos outside in the yard. And she has like a little goofy kid's digital camera. We go for walks, and she takes pictures of the sidewalk. Or today she found a pinwheel that she was just like, that is a beautiful pinwheel, and want to take a picture of the pinwheel. So anything that just sort of keeps her busy and somewhat focused on the task is really a winning activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so now we know a little bit about what your days look like now. But could you tell our listeners a bit about your journey into and out of bookselling? Like where did you get your start? Where have you been in the intervening years? That kind of thing.
Sure. My first job as a bookseller was at a bookstore in Miami, in downtown Miami, called the Downtown Book Center. It was a general bookstore. It's no longer there, I don't believe. It was a general bookstore, but they did a lot of business in sort of like English language workbooks. So like, say like a massive tour group would unload off a cruise ship from, say, Brazil, and they would just buy a ton of English workbooks. So like to learn how to speak English. So while I can't say this with a complete confidence, I'm pretty sure that it was sort of those kinds of textbooks that just really kept the bookstore afloat while we sold everything else. We sold international newspapers. We carry newspapers from like Spain and Italy and France and Germany, as well as from Latin America. And it was wonderful. It was great. I mean, I had just turned 16. I had a driver's license and my first job. It was amazing. And worked there for about a year and a half. And then sometime in my early 20s, I actually started working at the public library in downtown Miami. I was a librarian assistant for about 2 years. that's sort of that's where I was during 9/11. I remember sort of like driving into work, and I was listening to Howard Stern at the time, and him and Robin be like, "That's weird. Something, just crashed into the World Trade Center," and just like, huh. And then by the time I parked the car and got into the library, it was like bomb threats had been called in, and everybody was immediately sent home, and got home and turned on the news and saw the rest of it. So it was sort of like that time work at the library, which was again really, really great. I met some friends that I'm still friends with to this day at that job, is sort of really synonymous during the with 9/11 and the early aughts. I was there for a little while, and then I kind of I didn't really work around books for a little while. I worked in advertising for a while and absolutely hated it. I went and got an MFA, and that was, I guess, fun while it lasted. And I didn't really get back into. It's not entirely true. In Miami, I co-founded a mobile library, which just something that I just had so many books in my house. It was just really absolutely insane. It was called a library. It was sort of more like a book swap, and we would sort of go around town setting up these sort of pop-up sort of book swap events, and soon after that I moved to LA, and I knew that I wanted to try to really focus on my own writing, and I had been, when I was before I moved, I was working as an adjunct professor at a university down in Miami. I was teaching, ENC 1101 and 1102, Intro to Creative Writing, and that's all well and good, but as anybody who's ever taught adjunct knows, like, you don't just work during your class periods. You're working after hours. You're taking your work home with you. It's really an unholy amount of work. And so when I moved to LA, I knew I did not want a job that I would take home with me, and I knew I wanted to find a job at a bookstore. That was plan A. Plan A was find a job at a bookstore and try and focus on my writing. And fortunately, I had known Mitchell Kaplan from Books and Books in Miami. It's a name that might mean something to some folks in the book world. Known him basically since I was like 14 years old. Books and Books in Miami was my local indie. And it's just the amount of writers that I discovered, either by simply just shopping there or by going to events, is really remarkable. But anyway, this is all to say that Mitchell was kind enough to be a reference for me, and between Mitchell Kaplan's reference and the fact that I had been driving books all over the greater Miami area and setting up these pop-up events, made me an ideal employee for Skylight's off-site needs. So I started working just simply as a sort of off-site event staff. And just a few months after that, I was part-time in the store. A few months after that, I was the events assistant, where I was the events assistant to Mary Williams, the current manager at Skylight. And I really don't think, I think I'd been working honestly for less than a year, maybe a year, when Mary was promoted to the manager and I took over as the events manager. So it was a very steep learning curve. And then I was the events manager at Skylight for the last 6 years. I think that kind of sums it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that Skylight meteoric rise? Because it sounds like what happened to me too. Like,
Yeah,
I
very,
started at
very
Skylight
similar.
a year and a half ago, and then I started in events a year ago, and now I'm the events manager. Wild, a wild journey.
Nobody could have foreseen any of this a year ago. I mean, even when you came on and you were the assistant, I had no inclination that it would be difficult to juggle, parenting and the demands of an events manager. You know what I mean? It just almost felt like it was those last few months, those that September October stretch of 2019, where I was just sort of like, this is unfair to the store. It's unfair to Maddie. I don't know if I could really, my wife was traveling a ton, and our babysitters weren't available on, sort of relative short notice. And it just sort of like, it felt like those last few months there. So I was like, how am I gonna break this to Maddie? Because nobody broke it to me, sort of like, I think we had a staff meeting where basically Mary was sort of announced as the new manager, and Chris Heiser, who's the publisher at Unnamed Press, sort of just turned to me and said, "Congratulations on becoming the events manager." And I was like, "What?" Like within like the same meeting. So he knew something. He knew what was up, or he just knew the Skylight way, So yeah, it's if you ever get a job as the events manager at Skylight, just be forewarned.
Yeah, you never know what might be coming your way.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've had a long career in books. You've been around books and book people a long time. What do you think it is that keeps you coming back to books? I mean, even now you're out of books, but you're creating a new book thing that you're doing, so you're not really out of books.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the only job I will ever really truly love. It's the only job where I don't mind bringing work home with me, because that entails like a stack of books to read. I love book people. Sort of always sort of really fascinated by writers and readers, and just the community around books and independent bookstores and independent publishing is just the best. It's killer. It reminds me of when I was 13, 14 years old and first discovering the sort of like punk rock community. It's very tight knit and very supportive, and and just, it's never been more obvious than now during coronavirus, where so many bookstores all over the country are relying on each other for help and guidance and advice and support. It's really truly remarkable. So I really, at this point, I just can't imagine really doing anything else, so as you alluded to, I recently, earlier this year, launched Breaking and Entering, which is a quarterly journal. At least that was the pre-coronavirus plan. It was a quarterly journal publishing short stories, standalone short stories, as sort of limited edition chapbooks, and looking to publish sort of primarily genre stories, but I use the term genre very, very loosely. I'm personally more excited by writers who take genre tropes, take sort of structures and the language of genre and subvert them in new and exciting ways. And I'm also interested in primarily writers of color or other historically marginalized writers. During the my time at Skylight, it's it's the longest I've ever stayed at any job in my entire life, which says about something about how much I loved the job. But one of the things that had sort of never really paid much attention to was just really the machinations of the industry. And I feel there are a lot of issues in publishing that booksellers and writers and publishers are always sort of raising these issues. And you know, you could sort of like yell about these things till you're blue in the face, and hope and pray that these gigantic corporations hear your pleas and start to make changes. But sort of really started to feel that was kind of like a waste of energy, and the only way to really sort of try to enact some kind of change is to do something yourself, sort of curate something yourself with these values that you hold dear. And so the idea for Breaking and Entering was something that had been germinating for a few years. And, you know, there was just, you know, the fact that I was sort of no longer at the bookstore on a sort of day-to-day basis, there was just, I didn't want to let those 7 years where I made just a great number of connections and friendships with bookstore owners and employees and writers and publishers. I mean, just the sheer volume of books that come across your desk. And also, you know, Maddie, you know this, you get a firsthand look at the types of books and the types of writers that publishers are willing to throw money behind to market and promote. And some of those writers are very worthwhile, some very, very beloved writers with books that we all really love and admire, but there's so many other writers that fall through the cracks. And just wanted to take that experience, those last, you know, 6-7 years of all this stuff that I've sort of absorbed, and put it towards something good. And I think the sort of like the sort of punk rock model, where you start your own label, you start your own distribution network, you find the independent venues that are willing to support these bands, is like, oh yeah, I could do that. And so Break and Entering was born.
That's such a cool way to think about it. I like comparing a publishing project to a punk a punk rock band, because yeah, I do think that publishing as an industry doesn't really have that punk spirit. You know, we do kind of, a lot of us are rule followers. I'm a Virgo rising. I love rules. So, you know, I think it can take a really long time for things to change because of that, and because, you know, there's all these networks that are hard to break. So yeah, I think that's really exciting to say, you know, no, I'm coming from this other position of like, I have a vision, I'm going to enact it, I'm going to figure out who my allies are and make this happen myself. You know, I think you have a better shot of being seen by the system if you make a ruckus outside of it, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, right before before Break and Entry was really truly set in motion, I reached out to bookseller friends around the country and just said, hey, I got this idea. What do you think? You know, what are things that I should consider that perhaps I'm not? You know, I reached out to some indie presses and asked them the same questions, and took very copious notes and tried to find some middle ground between what my aspirations for the project is, and what's sort of realistic, and just went from there. I mean, I've like I mentioned before, my entire experience has been in independent bookstores. I've never worked in publishing, so kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. Yeah, I just basically made a enormous list of writers that I really love and admire, and I think sort of speak to the ethos of breaking and entering, and just started reaching out to them one by one. And if they said they were down, great. If they said they don't have anything for me at right now, then great, I'll circle back. Yeah, our first issue came out earlier this year. It was a novel excerpt by Eugene Lim, just really remarkable writer. We hosted. I read his Dear Cyborgs, put out by FSG, and was just completely floored by it. I thought it was such a smart book, and it's a very slim book too. And it was just the ideas that were packed in there, and the way he was sort of telling a story, sort of on the margins of like sort of a superhero comic book sort of universe, without any of the kapow, bang, you know, all and that kind of stuff. It was so great. And I pitched FSG like, please send Eugene our way. We hosted him. It was a great event, and so we got our first issue was a novel excerpt from the novel he's working on right now, it's really remarkable. It's I believe, if I remember correctly, the current working title of his novel is Search History, I believe. I'm sure it's just a working title, but and so the excerpt he gave me is titled "The Basement Food Court of Forking Paths." And we got Liana Jeggers to do a really beautiful cover for it, and it was I couldn't have been happier with it. And I just immediately started reaching out to bookstores around the country. And I think at the time of the coronavirus, it was in 6 bookshops. I was like 4 bookshops, 1 art book shop, Dale Zine down in Miami, and a pop-up speculative fiction bookshop, Paraspace Books in Dallas. And sort of I was in talks with another 2 shops to get it in. So sort of like I was really excited about getting it into stores. And that was great. And yeah, we're working on the second issue, which is a really just a phenomenal short story by Namwali Serpal, author of The Old Drift. It's a short story called Zoona, and I can't wait for people to read it, because it's if you're a fan of her work, I mean, you're gonna love this story. And again, got a really beautiful cover illustration by Ellen Baum. And that issue 2 is locked and loaded, but given the way, you know, coronavirus has just gummed up all the works, you know, it's all but waiting, sort of pull the trigger on some of the sort of formatting decisions and you know, just all, you know, sort of little design things here and there. But it's really important to me to get these into stores, and independent bookstores got a lot more on their plate right now than carrying this little sort of startup journal. But that's where we are right now, and currently in talks with a writer for issue 3, and we'll see how that goes.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm curious, do you have plans to put these online? Like, is there a way to buy like an e-version of these stories?
Yeah, that's something else I've sort of been talking to um, my web designer about, because we do have a website and we do sell them on the website. Um, but I want to make an version available. We've been going back and forth, like maybe there is just a sort of standalone version that you could purchase. Maybe, when you purchase a physical one, you get an version along with it. And that is something that we're working on at the moment. But again, like, everybody's just got so much on their plate right now that reaching out to my designer or my web guy to be like, hey, can you tackle this thing? Like, right now it just seems very low priority. So yeah, it's in the works. I don't know exactly when those versions will be up, but hopefully soon.
Well, and
Yeah.
it sounds like this project to you is really about creating the physical object, right? Like you've gone to all this effort to make these beautiful covers. Are they letterpress? The printing? It's really gorgeous.
Risograph.
Oh, risograph. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've like you've created these beautiful objects using all these analog processes. So, I mean, yeah, I only asked about the thing because, we're all now, everything's online, but it seemed like this project was born from a place of like, I want to create this beautiful object that showcases this story in a physical way. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, as someone who like just deeply values sort of small businesses and independent press, independent bookstores, when you walk into an independent bookstore or a record store, or if you're so fortunate enough to live in a city that still has like a video store, when you're actually able to like walk through these spaces and sort of sort through things and like literally physically, whether it's through the help of a staffer at the shop, or whether it's just fate brings you and said object of your affection together. There's just something really sort of special when you like actually hold the thing in your hand, and that sort of little spark of magic when you discover something physically, I think is really valuable. So definitely at the heart of this is getting it into bookstores, and hopefully if people discover the magazine either through social media or however else they discover it, hopefully it drives them to go visit these independent bookstores or art bookstores that perhaps they might not have heard of before. And yeah, it's just something that it's very important to me. My family are, they're Cuban exiles that have basically run restaurants for over 25 years. So the idea of a small business is really deeply ingrained in me. I very, very much believe in them. And they are just up against, so many obstacles, whether it's, you know the list, like just giant corporations, big box stores, strip mall. It's just it's harder and harder to make these sort of unique pockets of character and personality survive in the 21st century, and those are the things that make our cities special. So getting a physical object into a physical store is really, really important to me. Again, I'm aware that we live in the 21st century, and half our lives are spent in these sort of digital spaces. So coming up with some type of digital version of this is key. Uh, so I'm not oblivious to that, but I want to make sure that the principal object is the physical story.
Yeah, I mean, I think that having the physical object is like it's having a memory, it's having a tactile memory. Like, I think, as a denizen of online, I can't remember anything I read online, a few days later, but
Yeah.
I have little chapbooks and little zines that people have given me over the years, and I have kept from, I've moved so many times, but I have like a whole stack of these things, and every time I look through them, I remember where they came from and who gave them to me and when I read them. And, I think that a physical object can hold that so much better than a digital one, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever we would travel, seems like such a foreign concept these days, but whenever we would travel, we go to a city, I would tell my wife the only things I really sort of care about is finding a great bookstore or two, and great restaurants. That's really it.
Yeah.
If there was a, and you walk into a bookstore, and most every bookstore is going to have those hardcover new releases from the big five publishers, are not going to be there. And then once you move past that area into where those little spaces are, where the staff has made it uniquely their own, and they're offering things that you can only find there, that's where you find the really special things that when you get home and you're pulling all this sort of stuff out, you're like, oh man, I can't believe I found this really unique, whether it is a chapbook or a zine, or you find you make your way to the used books or rare books section, and you're like, oh man, I found that first edition of whatever, whatever it may be. But
yeah,
that experience where you really find your way to the like unique aspects of the individual stores is really where the sort of connections are made.
yeah.
I'll never forget the first time I went to Chicago and went to Myopic Books. I was like, oh yeah, I'm completely blown away by this place. This is fantastic. So every time I subsequently go to Chicago, I go to other more and more bookstores, but I always make sure to go back to Myopic because it was like one of the very first bookstores I walked into in Chicago, and my experience there was so great.
Mm-hmm.
Just as an example.
Yeah. For me, I'm always looking, when I go into a new bookstore, I always look for the UFO, paranormal, supernatural section. That's always my favorite spot to go to first. You learn a lot about the store by what's in that section.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's telling that at Skylight, every section is very clearly marked, fiction, whatever, cookbook, and then you get to that section ours, and it's just like an alien head.
Yeah, it's like arcane symbols. That's all Charles is doing, I know.
Absolutely it is,
I remembered the first time I came into Skylight and I saw that section, and I was like, oh, there's some weirdos who work here. This is a good store. All of the anarchy books, and well, let's talk very briefly. Let's imagine into the future after coronavirus. What could you see happening in the book industry to kind of make things more aligned with this vision of bookstores as these spaces of character, spaces of community, spaces of expression? What can you do to, if you have ideas, I don't know. Daydreams, what do you see?
Man, that's like the $1 million question right now, isn't it?
I know. That's why I'm asking everyone.
I really don't know. I worry about independent bookstores, or really just any independent business during all this, like how they're going to keep the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to believe that something more equitable will come out the other side. And I waffle back and forth between being optimistic and being a total nihilist and be like, absolutely not, just more, vultures will swoop down and just buy all these buildings and just turn them all into office spaces or whatever they're going to do. I don't know, I'll say this. I don't know personally any of the gang at Pilsen Community Books in Chicago. I don't know them. I haven't spoken to them, but they seem like they've got a pretty good co-op model going over there. Again, I don't know them, and I haven't spoken to them in great length. But I wonder if that's something that can be looked at in the future as a possible model. I just don't know. I don't think converting bookstores into basically fulfillment centers is the answer. There's something really special and unique about being able to physically walk into a space and interact with the space and the books and the staff. So just basically being like an independent version of Amazon where you're just filling orders all day isn't really a solution. I really don't know. I was thinking about this just the other day. It's like, when are in-store events going to come back, and what will they look like?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about that too.
Yeah, our event with like Ocean Vuong would never happen.
We had
our
like
event,
250 people crammed into the store.
Would never ever happen. And just the vibe in the store when it's just that packed. Not gonna lie, a little hot, a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
People standing up, but it's also just really miraculous. It's so uniquely its own vibe, its own energy. It's really remarkable. And is that ever gonna really happen again? I hope so. Just the long list of doorbuster events at Skylight where just like everybody just like so thrilled to be there is something that I would hate to lose. But it's hard to imagine what that's going to look like on the other side of this. I don't know. I wish I had like a really intelligent answer to give you right now, or really insightful, but just think there's just so many factors involved, from the economics of book selling to the economics of like rent. Does this mean that will people disperse from big cities and all move into small towns around the country because that's where you can afford to own your own building, and thereby make your own rules? I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, it's so. I think, and this is the optimist side of me, but indies have faced just an unrelenting avalanche of challenges, over the past 30 years. And somehow they just always adapt. And, every media outlet will write a story about the death of indie bookstores, and then
they love writing those articles.
They love writing those articles. They love them almost as much as the death of print, articles, and yet somehow always find a way to change and adapt. Oh, did I lose you? Are you there? Oh, sorry. I had a phone call come in.
It's all good.
And always find a way to sort of change and adapt. And the optimist in me believes that indie bookstores will find a way through this. It won't always be pretty. And I fear that we'll lose some of our most beloved institutions along the way. I hope I'm wrong. But, as these small business loans have proven, we're not exactly sort of high on the priority scale for our sort of, state and federal governments. And yeah, I think it's going to be largely on the independent bookstore community sort of come together and figure out how to move into the future.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, I wish I had a better answer.
no, I think that's good. I mean, we're all, you know, everybody's trying to talk through this right now, but everything changes every couple of days. So it's hard to think about the future at all, even in the short term. But I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about when you were talking about coming from, you know, this place of believing in small businesses, and your family's history with restaurants. I was like, well, I wonder if what needs to happen is there needs to be solidarity across small business sectors where, you know, like I've seen a few stores do this where they partner with some kind of a restaurant or a cafe.
Yeah.
I visited Red Emma's over in
Mhm,
Baltimore at Winter Institute this year, and they have an incredible cafe and a bar, and
Yeah.
the bookstore's in the basement. And it's all, you know, worker owned, and they seem to be pretty successful. So I wonder if there's like some way to think about the business model as collaborative with other kinds of businesses. And like there's stores doing this kind of like new version of curbside pickup where they partnered with like the cafe next door or something to do book drop off.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe East Bay is doing something similar. I think they're partnering with I believe it's a coffee shop
Yeah.
sort of on their block. Yeah, one of my favorite sandwich shops in the city is a Munch Factory. Not crazy about the name, but you know, whatever. But in South Pasadena, and they're right next to a video store that I really love, Videotech. It's and you know, every now and then I would either go to the video store first, rent a couple movies, and then go sit down and have a sandwich, the sandwich shop, and there's just sort of part of my routine, part of my ritual, and it's a wonderful way to while away a couple of hours in the day. But that sandwich shop, they've partnered with a ton of businesses where they're selling everything from like skincare products to jewelry, and it's all just like independent businesses in the neighborhood that they're all just sort of teaming up together. So, you know, whenever I can place in order and go pick up a sandwich, I just pick up something else, whether or not I necessarily need it, just to try to help, because I think that is sort of something that you are seeing, especially businesses that, you know, sort of share a street or a block, and they, you know, whatever it is, all sort of like kind of banding together to help each other out. So that seems to be sort of organically happening around the country.
Yeah. It's interesting. We'll see kind of how this evolves. I wonder if that kind of partnership will become more widespread. I hope so. I think it would be cool to see. Yeah. All right. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. I want to end with my traditional last question. What are you reading right now?
Oh boy. I'm not gonna lie. Coronavirus has absolutely cratered my ability to focus on anything.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would, you know, if I had to guess, I would typically read about a book a week, maybe, you know, maybe if I was reading sort of poetry or graphic novels, I can maybe blow through 2 or 3 of them in a week, you know. But now, I'm currently reading Michael Kohlhaas by Heinrich von Kleist. It's a New Directions book, and I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's like maybe like 120 pages, and it's taken me like, I'm still not, I think I'm like on page 70 or something right now, and I've been reading it for like 3 weeks. I just you know, by the time I do most of my reading at night, obviously once the baby goes down, and I'm just gassed, and not only physically gassed, but just mentally exhausted. And I just really can't concentrate. You know, it's really I could tell you, see if I think about this, I could tell you what's on my nightstand. The Michael Kohlhaas is on there, which is what I'm currently reading. Attica Locke's Bluebird is on there. What else? Oh, Hurricane Season, the Fernando Melchor,
Oh yeah.
is on there. I have I purchased this from Other Books in LA, which is just a phenomenal used bookstore that I encourage everybody to reach out to and support. They posted this book that I've never seen before. It was a compilation of short stories by Latin American women called The Magic and the Real. I think it's a modern library classics. And they posted it on their Instagram, and I immediately emailed them, and I'm like, I need to buy that from you right now. And that's sitting on my nightstand. And and the other one that's sitting there right now is They Will Drown in Their Mother's Tears, by Johannes. Oh, I'm gonna butcher his last name. Anyuru, I believe it is, Anyuru. I think I spelled that correctly. It's a 2 lines book, and it's really remarkable. That's one of those books that I got the galley of. I think I read it about like halfway through, and then just straight up closed it. And I'm like, I'm gonna purchase this book because I want to support this book, and I will finish it then. And I think I probably took it back to Skylight, and I don't even know who I ended up giving it to, but it's like, this book is really, really, truly remarkable. I don't know if that's weird, but sometimes like if I really love a galley, I just stop reading it and decide to purchase it. I don't know if that makes any. Just like you have to claw your way through the TBR pile somehow.
Yeah.
And finding the books that you want to throw your financial support behind. I'm like, yes, this is remarkable. I will finish this. Let me buy it. And that's sitting on the 2. So I think, yeah, I usually keep about 5 books. And I think those are the 5 that I have on my nightstand right now.
That's a healthy stack. Sounds like good
It's a
stuff.
healthy stack. It's a healthy stack. And at the pace I'm going to, maybe I'll finish the 5 by the end of the year, It's very embarrassing.
No, I get it. I mean, I've just been watching Real Housewives. That's all I'm doing right now. I'm like halfway through the new Laura Vandenberg collection.
Oh yeah.
But I can only read like 1 story at a time, and then I have to wait a couple of days.
Yeah, I love Laura Vandenberg, and I really love that collection. I'm not gonna remember the name of the story right now, but have you read the one about it's very short, but about the wife that drinks sort of like a Monster Energy drink? Have you read that story yet?
Oh no, I haven't gotten there yet.
Wait, sorry, I'm like totally butchering it. Man, it's a very short story, and I probably butchered it. I actually, not that I think about it, I think it's the husband who ends up buying these sort of drinks out of the trunk of some dude's car, and
Oh yeah,
the wife
yeah,
starts
yeah.
drinking them.
Yes, I did read that one.
It's very short, and it's so, it's one of those stories that's really, despite my inability to sort of accurately describe the story, it is one of those stories that's really sort of stuck with me, just from a story sense, but also like from a craft sense. I'm like, how is this story? It's making me feel such a confluence of feelings that are all so strange, and it's really amazing. I love all her work.
Yeah, I feel like the new collection is very like, it's like Brian Evanson, but more kind of feminine take on some of his horror. Like, it's definitely creepy as hell, but I feel like there's like there's a bit of a softer touch to it that makes them kind of even more creepy and more insidious.
Yeah, I mean, I come away from some of these stories, and I'm not sure what I just read. I can't articulate my feelings about them, but they just keep knocking around inside of me. I'm really, she's one of my favorite short story writers. I really love her work. Yeah. I really. I read The Third Hotel, and I was all over our FSG rep. I'm like, let me talk about this book, please. And I was able to contribute a blurb for some of the PR that went out for it. I was very grateful because I really loved that book also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to read that one next. Eventually, whenever I finish the collection.
yeah. So it's also a slim novel.
Love a slim novel. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially these days, give me that 200 page novel, please. You know,
under 200 pages, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to end here. Thank you again, David, for coming on the Handsell. How can people find Breaking and Entering if they want to check it out?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. It's breaking_entering. And oh shit, I'm gonna do it. I have not used the Breaking and Entering Twitter in weeks, and I'll be damned if I can remember what the hell. I changed it like 16 times. It's a Twitter handle on there somewhere.
So maybe Instagram is better then.
Instagram is better, and maybe do you guys have like a comments? Maybe you can sort of put the Twitter handle in the comments once I hang up.
We'll put it in the episode description.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. What a terrible salesman I am. Can't remember my own Twitter handle. It's just Twitter's a hellscape, and if I'm not naturally a good salesman, and trying to be a salesman in the age of coronavirus feels especially icky. So I've just have not been opening my Twitter really at all.
That's a good choice for
except
your
to read.
health.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's I want to keep the Breaking and Entering Twitter handle to just be about books and stories and shops, and it just sort of feels like somehow something that's, I don't know, just to me personally it feels a little bit in poor taste, and I have a hard time wrapping my head around like, hey, check this out, buy this, when 40 million people are without jobs. It just something feels it just doesn't really come naturally to me, where Instagram just feels a little bit, you can just kind of sort of share things without this sort of like impetus of like buy. So I do have a Twitter handle, I promise. I just can't remember the name of it.
All right, so check out Breaking and Entering on Instagram.
Yeah, it's breaking_entering on Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks, David.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Thank you, Maddie.
It was great having you, and hope to see you in person sometime soon.
Yeah, please give a huge socially distant hug to the entire crew at Skylight. I miss everybody very much.
Thank you for listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylightbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.
I see